Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean dire, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. Proud members of the Pigskin Podcast Network. You can find them at PigskinPodNet on Twitter, or you can search the hashtag TPPN. And goodness, it's a Wednesday. That's about the best I've got going for me. It is much like Davante Adams. I've been having a rough couple days. Matt, how are you doing on this wonderful Wednesday?
You know, I'm doing okay. It's been almost a week since that game.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to let go of the pain as I prepare for the fourth primetime game for the Broncos in 6 weeks. Way to go, NFL.
I mean, in fairness to the NFL, I don't think any of us thought they were going to be quite this unpleasant to watch, I guess is the nice way to put it, right?
I know on paper, the opening Monday night game against Seattle is, Russ coming home. And then you have Sunday night with 49ers. That's, always fun. Shanahan there. And then you'd have a Thursday game against the Colts, two teams people thought were going to be in the playoffs. And now Monday night with the Chargers, two more teams that.
At least we get Herbert, right? We get Herbert, primetime Herbert, possibly Keenan Allen. I saw he's actually finally practicing.
Don't get my
today.
hopes up like that.
Look, trust me, I'm right there with you. Oh, it might cure all my ails right now if I can just get Keenan Allen out on the field. So we've got a little bit of news for this for today's show. We will also recap the Monday Night Football game. Matt will be giving you his top 12 at each position, and then obviously we will preview the Thursday night game, which looks to be a barn burner between the Commanders and the Bears. So speaking of Davante Adams, Matt, frustrated after a tough loss in a game that we're about to talk about, shoves a photographer on his way off the field. I did see that later that night. He did apologize on Twitter, saying it's not who I am. I did not mean to do that. If you ever see this, blah, blah, blah. And then this morning was charged with misdemeanor assault by Kansas City. What are your thoughts right now on Davante Adams?
Yeah, I mean, the guy claims to have whiplash, a headache, minor concussion, and he definitely got vaulted. I can understand him saying it's not who I am, it's not how I normally act. He'd be hard-pressed to say he didn't mean to do it because it looked pretty intentional. I think this is bad. We knew Davante Adams wasn't going to play this week because the Raiders are on a bye, which gives the NFL even more time to think about it. I'd say at least a game, could be 2 to 5 games. It's a real bad look. And from somebody that should know better, I personally think he probably should get a couple of games because you can't have this. It's one thing throwing a tablet and breaking it because you're pissed off. It's another thing throwing an actual human being.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I lean as well. I am a massive fan of Davante Adams, the person, the player. We've never seen anything like this out of Davante from someone who, again, I nowhere near the athlete that he is. I'm like on 1% of the scale that he is, but someone who is definitely very competitive and took a lot of pride in the way I played and in winning and losing games. I get the frustration. and I don't want to make excuses for him. I definitely can believe him when he says he didn't mean to do it, because sometimes when you're in a situation like that, like all you see, this may not make sense. I'm sure most people have probably dealt with something in this life where you're in a situation like that where you're just so upset and so angry, like you're just kind of seeing red and you don't really know what you're doing or mean what you're doing. I'm not trying to make that as an excuse. He definitely deserves to suffer the consequences of his actions. But I do think in the fact that we've never even seen him on the sideline throw a tablet, like you just mentioned, like Tom Brady owes how much money to Microsoft for the tablets that he's broken on the sidelines, right? Aaron Rodgers.
I
Same
like
thing.
how
We see
they
these,
made a new rule for Tom Brady after the last time about damaging
yeah,
NFL equipment.
right. We've never seen anything like that out of Adams. Like, I don't even think I remember a time of seeing him like slam his helmet on the ground. So that's where I will say, like, I don't want to make an excuse for Adams, but I do think I can believe him when he says he didn't mean to do it. But I'm with you. Like, this is definitely not as bad as for those of you who may know the NBA or just fans histories of the sport, Malice in the Palace, where they were literally fighting fans. Clearly not that bad, right? Like Devontae Adams didn't throw a punch, but he did push him, and it wasn't a little light, like get out of my way. Like he full on shoved him. So I do think he's probably going to get multiple games here, unfortunately. Again, I do believe him that he didn't deserve it or he didn't mean to do it. I think he was probably seeing red. I'm also going to say, like, maybe it's just my opinion. I feel like there's a little bit of a cash grab on the dude who got pushed. And look, I've been pushed harder, but that part of it is what it is. Still, dude's trying to do his job. So I get that part of it. It does suck that we are going to likely lose Adams for a couple games, but again, unfortunately, when you do something like that, you kind of have to suffer the consequences. And I don't think it's going to be. I saw some stuff on Twitter, people being like, oh, I can't believe, Devontae Adams is about to get cut and everything. I'm like, yeah, calm down. That ain't happening. The Raiders are not cutting Devontae Adams over a misdemeanor assault charge. That's kind of where I feel like it's gone too far, is taking it to that point. But
I like Josh McDaniels' comment. It's an unfortunate situation.
yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It's not like I said, maybe I just view as someone who, I mean, not to go you recently, to not go too deeply into anything, you recently in your day job of a couple weeks ago dealt with some very serious issues, right? Like we've all been in spots where like a misdemeanor assault thing is a big deal. Like I don't feel like that's what Devontae did. And I feel like that's where this is really getting blown out of proportion. He didn't clock the dude. He pushed him. Like we can all move on with our lives. He deserves what he's going to get. He's going to face consequences. He's probably going to have to pay some kind of fine or some kind of damages to the gentleman that he pushed. But at the end of the day, I still think Devontae Adams is a good person, great player. Like it's just an unfortunate incident, right? Like exactly what McDaniel said. Like it's just an unfortunate incident. With
I feel like that could also describe Josh McDaniels' entire coaching career.
It's very apropos. That is definitely for sure. Speaking of injuries, Baker Mayfield injured, high ankle sprain. Not great for any player. You don't want to see any kind of player to suffer a high ankle sprain. Likely going to be out for multiple weeks. Matt Rule fired, which I don't know if you and Dennis talked about on the Monday show. Is there a realistic shot that Baker's done now already in Carolina with this? I mean, it's got to be at least a 3 or 4 week injury, right? If Darnold's back, do they just go to Darnold?
Yeah, they said 2 to 6 weeks. Darnold is not yet back, so it's actually PJ Walker this week. And shoot, I don't know if PJ Walker looks good. You never know what's going to happen. Carolina's a mess. Personally, I mentioned this on Monday. I think Carolina would be best served right now trying to bottom out and go for a high draft because they've got to solve the quarterback question. If they think they want to move 1 or 2 of their higher profile players to get a few more first round picks, they're going to have to start over. I don't know if there is an easy fix there. I know Dennis was disappointed that Steve Wilkes is the interim coach because he thinks that probably means he doesn't have a shot to get the job. I'm not sure if I'm Steve Wilkes. I want to waste my official second chance on what looks like a disaster. Matt Rule had a lot of control and built a roster that's question. I mean, we liked the Terrace Marshall pick at the time. Dude never even gets on the field. Oh, you didn't like that pick?
I didn't. I was not a fan of Terrace Marshall. I have a lot of bookmarked receipts about how Terrace Marshall was going to be such a good wide receiver.
Well, he's not even on the team.
Yeah.
They went out and signed Robbie Anderson. That's been incredibly hit or miss. They've made DJ Moore look like he doesn't exist. I don't. You didn't get a chance to comment. How do you feel about Matt Rule being gone? What do you think that means?
I think they should have just fired him to start the season. It's kind of the argument I've made for other NFL coaches when they've done this, or even college coaches where the regime comes out and it's like, well, that was just kind of the last straw. I'm like, no, we know that the last straw was last year. You should have just fired him coming into the season and started to move forward. I do agree with you that Carolina's in a bad spot. I don't think they're as bad off, though, as some like Houston. I mean, Houston last year when David Culley took over, David Culley, I think, still deserves to have a head coaching job. And they were able, though, to move Deshaun Watson and get multiple first-round picks. Like, I don't know that Carolina is going to be able to do anything like that, but I also don't think they're that far off. They've got a lot of really good offensive pieces. I think a lot of it just revolves around you need to build a competent offense. You need to have a quarterback. Like, their defense is definitely not a top 10 to 14, 15 defense, but I don't think it's one of the worst. I just think a lot of it is that defense is on the field all the time because that offense can't do anything.
What'll be curious to me is it seemed like the last couple of years Carolina has tried to get into the sweepstakes to get players and haven't been able to get them. Was that a product of people didn't want to come to play for Matt Rule? Will that actually get better now that he's gone? I like McCaffrey and DJ Moore. That's kind of all they've got going for them on offense right now. But you're right. That's why they have their picks. You should bottom out. Try to get, I don't know which quarterback you like best, but try to get one of the top 2 picks, I'm assuming, so that you can guarantee you're either getting Young or Stroud and try to start over.
Yeah, it's going to be very intriguing because I had a conversation today with Ray Garvin about how I don't think this is a good quarterback class. I don't. I think it's Stroud and Young. So you're hoping for a lot if you can get one of those bottom 2 picks. And I actually, as crazy as this is going to sound when I say this, like, would it be so bad if Carolina maybe ended up with a Jimmy G and went a different way in the draft? Like,
I have to be honest. You know what bums me out the most is that they got Matt Corral injured now for the year in the preseason because this would have been the perfect opportunity for him to get a shot. And he was a quarterback you and I both liked based on the talent coming out. And the dude's not even going to get to show anything.
Yeah, he'd be playing this weekend.
He'd be playing. Yeah.
The crazy thing is about that, I don't know that Matt Corral's time is done because I think that there is a shot that Carolina just does that because I don't know. It's going to be telling once we get closer to the draft, but I know there's a lot of people talking about how there's like this is 5 or 6 quarterbacks deep. I'm not in the NFL, so just take this for what it is. I don't think it is. And so I'm going to be very curious to see what they do. But just on the Matt Corral thing, I mean, there's a realistic shot we're about to see Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, and Malik Willis all play at some point in time this year, which is not something I think any of us expected earlier on when we saw Kenny Pickett being the only guy drafted in the first round. But I didn't even think Carolina could be an attractive job as well, just because I think at least maybe not now with how tumultuous things have been in Carolina, but it felt like David Tepper was a very respected owner when he first took over for Carolina. Things have not really gone well for them since. Speaking of places not going well and Sam Howell, Ron Rivera and Carson Wentz with the little back and forth there where I know Ron Rivera has now come out and apologized and said that he didn't necessarily mean to throw his quarterback under the bus, but he did. What are your thoughts going on up there in Washington?
I mean, okay, so if you didn't see it, they asked Ron Rivera what the difference was between the Commanders, who are 1-4, and the rest of the NFC East, which is at least 4-1 or 5-0. And he had one word. He said quarterback. And then he followed up by saying, finding consistency at the quarterback. That's kind of a shot for a guy who's played pretty well. But then they go to Carson Wentz and say, what's the difference between the Commanders and everybody else? And he just said coach and let it be. So Rivera obviously coming out and apologizes. I take him at his word that perhaps he didn't mean for it to come off like that. And I actually watched, the news conference with Rivera, and I believe what he was trying to say is consistency and time developing. He might have been pointing to the fact that they've had a different starting quarterback every year that he's been there, sometimes multiple starting quarterbacks, and you can't build that continuity of system or what. It wasn't a good look, and there's been some questions about whether there's tension. And Carson Wentz got scapegoated for everything that happened in Indianapolis last year, and we've talked about a little bit that it probably wasn't all him. The fact that Matt Ryan has rolled out there and looked to have some of the same problems, and the offense fundamentally has the same problems. He got scapegoated for everything that went wrong in Philadelphia too. I'm not saying he didn't bear some responsibility in that, but I would understand him being a little titchy. He's on his third team in 3 years, and both times it's come where it's been like, oh, well, we'd be a wonderful team if only we could get rid of this dead weight. And here he is, he's, I think, quarterback 7 overall in fantasy. He's putting up pretty decent numbers. He's gotten Jahan Dotson going. He's made Curtis Samuel look like the potential fantasy MVP I thought he was going to be last year when he didn't play. He forgot Terry McLaurin's on his team, but maybe he learned that from Frank Reich. They don't run the ball well. They're not playing defense particularly well. Ron Rivera has not had a winning season in Washington. I know he was in the playoffs. He has not had a winning season in Washington. Doesn't look like he's tracking for a winning season here. I think that's not going to be good for them long term. I still think they might be okay because this Thursday night game isn't two incredible teams, but Washington looks like they're distant 4th right now in their own division.
Yeah, I'm actually with you. I do think that what he meant was when he said quarterback, because they were talking about the difference in thing is that's the only new starting quarterback in the division. Like the other ones have had, Jalen Hurts has been there. This is his 3rd year now, technically with the Eagles. He didn't play much in his rookie season, but it is his 3rd season with the Eagles. Dak has been with the Cowboys for 5 years. Who am I forgetting? The Giants have had Daniel Jones since he was a rookie. So was it?
Yeah, he's on his 4th year.
4th year. So I really think that's what he meant. But when you don't specify, people are going to assume what you mean or infer things that maybe you didn't mean to imply.
And the Cowboys, honestly, so I'll give you Jalen Hurts, which that has to hurt Wentz personally because he essentially got tossed over for Hurts. But when you're looking at the other, most people have been very skeptical at best on Daniel Jones, even though he's been there. And the Cowboys are doing all this with Cooper Rush, which is very much in the forefront of the discussion right now about the Cowboys. So I maybe will give Rivera grace that he wasn't intending it to be a shot like that, but he did not choose his words very well. And I think he's made a tough situation even worse.
Yeah, I agree, and we've already talked a little bit about it. I think this is probably Rivera and Turner's last year in Washington. I don't think that they will be brought back, which unfortunately could mean another move for Carson Wentz as well. So let's talk a little bit about that Monday Night Football game where the Chiefs come back actually to beat the Las Vegas Raiders 30-29. I feel like we've been asking this a lot lately because it has not worked out. It's been on the opposite side of this every single time. Did Josh Daniels mess up by going for 2?
The first text I sent to my friends after that play was Josh McDaniels continues to be a moron. I know some people have questioned the Chiefs going for 2. I totally understood the Chiefs going for 2. They were up 7, which means a full touchdown, and going for 2 would have put them up 2 scores, which is a very tactical decision. On the road in that game, it made 0 sense given the time, because you had 4.5 minutes. It's not like there was 10 seconds left and you were just hoping to win the game. It made 0 sense to me for them to go for 2. They should have kicked the extra point and tied that game, tried to play to get the ball back, at least gotten to take it into overtime, not put so much pressure on their offense. And then, of course, we have the perfect storm of the two best wide receivers on their team slamming into each other on 4th and 1, which was a beautiful way for it to end. But Josh McDaniels has made a number of bonehead plays. They've played 5 games. The Raiders have blown a 17-point lead twice. And if they hadn't managed to play a dysfunctional Denver team, they probably would be 0-5 right now.
I feel like I'm going to be talking out of both sides of my mouth here because I've said before I don't question coaches when they go for 2. Even if they end up missing it, because I like coaches being aggressive, and it's kind of hindsight bias because if they got it, we'd probably be saying that was a great call, very gutsy. The difference here is they would have had a tied game had he just gone for the extra point, right? Like, why not just take the extra point then? Like, I get going for the win there, but when you're playing a team like Patrick Mahomes, when you're playing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, I don't know. Personally, I think I'm just taking that and seeing what I can get out of it.
Well, and it's not like their offense was going great gangbusters in the second half. They were up 20-10 at the half, and then they found themselves down 30-23 here at the end of the fourth quarter. They had only managed 3 points. They weren't really connecting. It was, I'll give him props. It was a beautiful play design and a beautiful pass to Devontae Adams to get that touchdown. I was super pumped. I thought, hey, this is, the Raiders are getting some stuff. I like Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I wish Derek Carr found himself in a better position. But now you're also talking about 1-5. You have an early bye. Waller got hurt. We haven't figured out how to use Renfro, and we just talked about Devontae Adams could well be out for a couple of games. The Raiders have almost played themselves out of a playoff chance, and we're not even to November.
I think they are out of the playoffs. I mean, we've talked about it before. I mean, you've got we still, even in the expanded playoffs, have not seen a team that started 0-2 make the playoffs. Well, the Raiders started 0-3.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're making it. You're looking at a massive turnaround, which granted, I mean, they did do last year, and Miami did as well and almost made the playoffs. But I think you're in such a deep hole. And even in a division where I get none of these teams have really been as good as we thought. We thought this was going to be the best division in all of football. It turns out that's actually probably the
NFC
East. Yeah. They're not even the NFC East and probably still the NFC West. Like, that's still been at least better. Like,
I don't know. The Rams and the Cardinals are pretty putrid. Seattle's
the
frisky.
Rams are. I mean, Seattle's been good though with Geno Smith. I know the record ain't there, but they've been
okay, and they've been banged around. NFC East.
It's probably the best division in all of football right now, and I would actually put the AFC North up there. Even if Kevin Stefanski wasn't blowing leads,
I actually kind of would lean more toward the AFC East because Miami, they've had injuries that have cost them a couple games. The Jets look kind of fun and frisky. You got 3-2 teams. I'm forgetting who the fourth team in that division. Oh, the Patriots. Who are not. They're not that bad. I mean, look at what they just took, the number one offense in football, an offense that had not scored less than 35 points in any of the games, and dismantled them.
It's going to be interesting. I think they're out of it, though.
We made fun of the NFC and AFC East, and it may turn out that, holy cow. I mean, because Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, to me, is probably where I'm drawing the line of a tier in the NFL right now.
Oh, I would actually put it Eagles, Bills, and that's it.
I still think the Chiefs.
I like the Chiefs, and I feel like they've been good. Me personally, I have not seen out of the Chiefs what I've seen out of the Bills and the Eagles. Like,
that's true, because like the question that I had for you, if you were playing fantasy with the Chiefs, I think you're playing Mahomes and Kelsey, and that's it, because they have no consistency in the running game. I thought CEH looked good for the first couple of games, but he's been a non-factor. And my God, you should not trust any of those wide receivers, because one of them might hit or none of them might hit. It's really they've gone from being a 3-man option to 2-man option.
Hey, but those two are absolutely killing it.
No, I mean, if you have them, that was
2-man band.
That was like 85 points if you had that stack on Monday night, but that's still, I don't know how you feel, but don't feel comfortable playing any Chiefs right now outside of those two.
No, it would be literally just Mahomes and Kelsey. But I also think that's fair to say about a lot of teams right now. I mean, you go in like I'll just go back to no, never mind. I was going to say my Cleveland Browns, but you got Chubb and Njoku, I think's worked himself
And
into
Hunt
an everyday
and
start.
Cooper.
Hunt, I don't know, but Cooper definitely is. God, am I wrong on Cooper every
I
single
think
year.
Hunt scored another touchdown last week. I think, look, the landscape of running backs wasn't great
that
to
may be
start the
true.
year,
Yeah.
and it's sliding a little bit into the
Yeah,
toilet.
I'm trying to think of another team that only has two, but I really can't
Well, it's
think
the
of anybody
Ravens
off the top of my
probably,
head.
Lamar and
Yeah.
Andrews, but
Dobbins is getting
I
close,
still
though.
like Bateman.
I think Dobbins is getting close. He almost scored this past weekend, right? Or did he? I thought he looked good from the little. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I did not watch a lot of that game, but some of the recap and the highlight stuff that I saw, I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's not bad. I guess the Giants. The Giants would be the other one because you're really only playing Saquon. Yeah. I actually think Daniel Bellinger's not a bad streaming tight end, given that some of these fantasy positions, man, are you have like 2 or 3 rock solid options, and then I'll pray for you.
Yeah, it's not fun. Speaking of, we're talking about all these players and the teams that you can play them. What are your top 12 options at each position this week?
Yep. So bye weeks start this week. So buckle up, Buttercup. The Raiders, the Titans, the Lions, and the Texans are out. And you would say some of those are not great teams, but it was a little gutting for fantasy across actually all 4 positions. Between that and some of the injuries, it is an intriguing week. But my top 12 at quarterback, I have Aaron Rodgers at number 12. They're playing the Jets. That's not an easy game, and Rodgers hasn't been incredible. But Tom Brady is my number 11. He gets Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh used to be an incredible defense. That just doesn't feel like the case. Number 10, this one is more of a toss-up for me. I have Tua. They have seen mixed reports about whether they think he's coming back or not. I feel like he shouldn't be playing, and I still think he is going to play.
I read today he will not be playing this week at all. Like, he's coming back in limited practice, but that he will not be playing this week.
So I'm going to update that. So I think that unfortunately means number 12 for me is actually Carson Wentz. I'm telling you, it is not a great week, and we have some of these quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan, who you used to be able to bank on. That I just don't trust the top 12. Same with Lawrence. So I'm going to take. Did you see if Bridgewater got cleared? Because that's been like the big.
I have not. Last I saw is that this was earlier this morning on this part of it was that they are still planning on Skylar Thompson being the starting quarterback for the Dolphins this week.
Yeah. So a position of sadness got to be a bigger position of sadness. So number 9 for me, Geno Smith. The dude's been on fire. Seattle's playing Arizona. Arizona does not scare me in any way, shape, or form. Number 8, Kirk Cousins. They're playing Miami. He's got probably the best wide receiver in football, so he's still rolling. Number 7 for me, Kyler Murray. They're playing Seattle. I don't always trust the consistency of his weapons, but he's been pretty good. Number 6, Jalen Hurts. I know they're going against Dallas. It's going to be a tough game, but Hurts, even if he doesn't do it in the air, he's been doing it on the ground. I think they will need him. Number 5 for me is Joe Burrow. They're playing New Orleans. Number 4, Justin Herbert playing Denver. I wish I could make this lower, but I still think Herbert's going to be good. It's going to be a sad day for me. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes going up against Buffalo. Number 2, I have Lamar Jackson playing the Giants. Jackson has been doing it with his feet and his arms. He's really been the offense there. And then number 1 for me is still Josh Allen. On to running backs. Number 12 for me, Melvin Gordon. I think they are going to try to run a lot. It is his former team. It makes me nervous. I'll probably put the ball on the ground 97 times. Number 11, Jeff Wilson. He has looked really good for the 49ers. They're playing Atlanta. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to want to do well against his former team. Number 10, Joe Mixon. I was encouraged by the way we saw him find some running room and get involved last week. Number 9, Leonard Fournette. He's been involved in all phases of the game. Number 8, Aaron Jones. Number 7, Alvin Kamara. Please don't get all of your touchdowns sniped by Taysom Hill. I mean, dude carried 23 times. times, over 100 yards, caught 8 balls for 91 yards, couldn't get a single touchdown. Number 6, Dalvin Cook for Miami. Number 5, Christian McCaffrey. I'm hoping he remains strong. He's been a big part of the rushing and passing game. Number 4, Austin Eckler going there against Denver. Denver's defense is good at times, but they have allowed some rushing and passing. Makes me nervous. Number 3, Nick Chubb. I know they're going against New England. I still believe in Chubb. Number 2, Saquon Barkley. He's another guy having a great season. And then it looks like Jonathan Taylor's going to play again this week, so I put him back at number 1. For wide receivers, number 12 for me is Tyreek Hill. It's been interesting, even with Bridgewater and Thompson. Hill has seemingly been the one that's fared better than Waddle. Things happen. Number 11, Mike Williams. I think he's still in a good groove. He's kind of a big, strong receiver. I hope Keenan Allen gets back, but I don't know if he'll be 100% or 100% target share. This one makes me nervous. Number 10, Michael Pittman Jr. They're playing Jacksonville again. My God, can Indianapolis actually find a way to play against the Jaguars? Number 9, Cortland Sutton. You may laugh, but Sutton is actually top 12 this season, even with the way the Denver offense has looked. And I think they're going to have to try to put up some points against the Chargers. Number 8, A.J. Brown. I think Brown is due for a big game once again. He's had a couple of quiet weeks. There's been some chatter about him having a lesser role in the offense. Number 7, Jamar Chase. I like the talent. We saw him go back to getting a dominant target share. I know T. Higgins still banged up. I like Higgins, but I think they're trying to get Chase the ball. Number 6, Mike Evans, always a good threat for a touchdown. And you know who's been giving up a lot of big plays? That would be Pittsburgh, surprisingly. Number 5, CeeDee Lamb. I think that's going to be a big game. He seems to be the one that Cooper Rush is going to, even when they don't throw it a lot. Number 4, Deebo Samuel. I think he's going to get involved. Rusher, passer. He can beat you a lot of ways. Number 3, Stephon Diggs. I'm looking for it. Buffalo, Kansas City, probably going to be the game of the week. If we are blessed. The late window on Sunday is Buffalo and Kansas City, and then the Sunday night game is the Cowboys at the Eagles. I think those could be 2 good games, at least I hope. Number 2, Cooper Kupp. I dropped him down a slot. Right? He's still doing Cooper Kupp things, but number 1 for me is Justin Jefferson. He's just been incredible. Threw the ball last week, caught 12 for 154, nothing he can't do. Tight end, another interesting one. Number 12 for me, Hayden Hurst. He only has 1 game out of 5 where he has less than 7 points, and he has 3 games out of 5 where he's seen 7 or more targets. He's more involved in Cincinnati's offense than you realize. Number 11, Dalton Schultz. I'm hoping he's getting healthier and will go back to having a good role. Number 10, David Njoku. He seems to be kind of the second target there. Tight end is not an incredible position. I'm just going to lay that out there. I know Taysom Hill had a huge game last week. I just don't think he gets consistent enough volume for you to vault him way up there. Number 9 for me, Kyle Pitts. Hopefully they will find a way to get him involved and he'll actually be on the field. Number 8, Zach Ertz, who is getting consistent targets for Arizona. Number 7, Gerald Everett, also getting consistent targets there for the Chargers. Number 6, Dallas Goedert. Number 5, Tyler Higbee. He is actually having a fantastic season that's going under the radar. He's been the most reliable part of the Rams offense, not named Cooper Kupp. Number 4, Pat Freiermuth. Number 3, George Kittle. Really beyond the top 2, it's kind of a toss-up. I went based on talent I like. Because number 2, Mark Andrews. Number 1, Travis Kelce.
All right, so let's jump in now and preview the Thursday night football game between the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears. On the Bears side, N'Keal Harry will actually be making his debut now for the Chicago Bears. So Justin Fields gets that elite receiving weapon, right? We're gonna see that boost of a receiving core.
When N'Keal Harry makes a difference for your pass offense, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it's not great, unfortunately. But that is really the only injury news, at least for the Bears. So can Justin Fields have 2 solid games in a row here, Matt?
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good. He started slow last week, but it was inarguably his best game of the season. He's been finding ways to get Kmet and Mooney involved. Maybe N'Keal Harry helps that. I actually think David Montgomery being out there has helped him. Khalil Herbert might be a more explosive runner, but Montgomery seems to be a more steady influence and a better piece of the passing game. That seems to do some good things for them. The Commanders' defense has not been super imposing. The Bears are actually home. I thought the Commanders were home, but the Bears are actually the home team here. The Bears seem to play a little bit better at home, so I think we could see another decent game for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I really hope that he has a good game here. Again, Washington's defense is not great. I feel like it's setting up for him to continue to slowly progress forward. I agree with you. David Montgomery out there looked good. It was his best game so far this season. I do think he's got a chance to repeat that performance. Don't know that N'Keal Harry is going to change that, but at least adding another receiving weapon on the other side won't hurt. On the Commanders side here, Carson Wentz, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown, Logan Thomas, William Jackson III are all questionable, and I actually believe Logan Thomas and Jahan Dotson have now been ruled out.
Yeah, I was just going to see about an update.
I think I just saw that a little bit ago that they've both been ruled out of this game, which is not great for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, William Jackson has now been ruled out as well. So the only it looks like Wentz is off the injury report now, so he must be better. De'Ami Brown is still questionable with a groin injury, which for somebody who's kind of a speedster and slot receiver, that's bad news. Not a great.
Yeah. So with being down now, Jahan Dotson, who's arguably probably been their best wide receiver so far this season, and Logan Thomas, what does
Curtis Samuel's been their best wide receiver?
Oh yeah, my bad. That's fair. The second best wide receiver. What are you expecting though from the Commanders' backfield? Are you playing any of them? And then now, what do you expect from the wide receiver core losing Jahan Dotson?
Yeah, I mean, Samuel's been good. What's baffling to me is they just haven't found a consistent connection with Terry McLaurin, which he carried that team for kind of the last 3 years. I was excited that he got the long-term deal. He hasn't been bad. I'm not saying it's been bad. It just they have found creative ways to get the ball to Dotson, even last week to get it to De'Ami Brown. We're just not seeing that same kind of success with Terry McLaurin. I think he's more of a wide receiver 3 flex option. Curtis Samuel is actually the one I still feel the best about. They give him carries occasionally. He seemed to have better rapport with Carson Wentz. So from that standpoint, you're probably playing both those guys, but not feeling great about it. And given the quarterback landscape, especially in Superflex, you're probably rolling Carson Wentz too. Even though because the Bears defense has been okay, but they aren't exactly spectacular. The backfield is more of a huge question. I would say now with those receivers and the tight end out, J.D. McKissick is probably the one I'm more interested in playing because he got quite a few targets last week. I believe 7 targets. He's more of their pass catcher, and I think they may need more help pass catching wise. I want to see Brian Robinson do more than 9 carries for 22 yards before I feel confident putting him in. But at the same time, we saw 3 carries for 3 yards and 3 catches for 33 for Antonio Gibson. That's not volume enough that you're risking putting either of those guys in as either a running back or a flex right now. To me, the only one I'm potentially taking a chance on is J.D. McKissick because he may get some more passing volume with all those receivers out and banged up. But this backfield is kind of a stay away at this point in time. It's a 3-headed monster, and it's not a 3-headed monster that yields a lot of consistent touches or production.
Yeah, I mean, if I can avoid him, I'm staying away from him. I don't trust this backfield at all. I think if I had to play one, I'm probably playing Brian Robinson, but I don't even feel great about that. For the wide receivers, I think it's as you said, the best player on the team is Curtis Samuel. Roll Curtis Samuel out there, hope for the best from Derek McLaurin.
I was just a year too early.
Just hey, you know what? You're not wrong. Who are you picking to win this game?
So Dennis gave us his pick. He is taking the home team Chicago Bears. I'm going to take the Commanders.
I'm going to take the Bears too. I think 2 weeks in a row, Justin Fields gets it done.
I mean, this is like if you were going down and what they usually say, which coach do you trust more, which quarterback, these teams are fairly even and not in a good way.
Yeah, unfortunately. But hey, we can
Did
at
you
least
see
hope
the
it's a good game.
the
Hopefully.
over under is like 38 points?
Smash the under. Smash the under.
Well, that's not even a big over under.
Oh, I know, yeah. So that'll do it though for us today. Matt, Dennis, and myself will be back on Friday. We will recap, hopefully, what's going to be a very good game. Justin Fields breakout game. I'm calling it now. The Justin Fields breakout game on Friday, and then we will preview the rest of the Week 6 NFL slate. Everybody have yourselves a great Wednesday, and we'll see you guys again on